right, this is the last month for both of the studies that we've been doing on Sunday morning. Luke, we've been going through the first half. We will do lessons throughout the month of March on Luke, and then we'll take a break and pick up Luke in the latter half of the year. We're going to do on Sunday nights. We are finishing our series this month on living in Babylon, how the church interacts with the world around us. We have 3 more lessons that we'll do first, second, and third Sunday in March. So we're finishing out the first things we've been doing for the first part of the year, and then we'll transition into some different lessons. As we come to Luke chapter 9, twice in the 9th chapter, the question of Jesus' identity comes up. Once it's asked by Herod, and once it's posed by Jesus himself. And of course, this is the most apt question at this point as we've been going through the gospel and thinking about the work and ministry of Jesus. Who is this guy? Who is this person that is doing all of these things? Luke 9, 7 through 9, when Herod the Tetrarch heard about all that was happening, he was perplexed. What's happening here? Because it was said by some that John had been raised from the dead, and some that Elijah had appeared, and by others that one of the prophets of old had risen. These are, in essence, the 3 theories that are floating around at this point. There's this guy up in Galilee who's been preaching and resurrecting people, or not resurrecting, he's been casting out demons, and he's been healing people, and he's been feeding people, and all this stuff has been going on, and rumors are flying. Who is this guy? Well, some people think he's John raised from the dead. Some think Elijah had appeared. Some think he's one of the prophets of old, some older prophet that had risen from the dead. Now, for Herod, there's a very particular thing here that he's worried about. Herod said, John I beheaded. Can't be John, I killed him. Who is this about whom I hear such things? And he sought to see him. For Herod, the question is one of personal importance. Wait, I killed John the Baptist. Is he back from the dead? That can't be right. And of course, Jesus asked the question of his disciples in Luke chapter 9, verse 18. It happened that as he was praying alone, the disciples were with him, and he asked, who do the crowd say that I am? And it's, again, a very understandable question. Jesus has been teaching and preaching quite a bit at this point, and now he wants to think, who do you think that I am? And so he's beginning this with a question to the crowds. They answered John the Baptist, others Elijah, others one of the prophets, and you can really get the sense that these are the rumors that are swirling around at this point. And he said to them, but who do you say that I am? All the other people, they have their theories, but you've been with me the whole time. What do you think? Who do you think that I am? And again, this is the most pressing question of what is going on here. Who is this guy? And again, Herod's thinking about this from his own perspective, and they've all heard the same theories. And where do these theories come from? They do have some basis in the Old Testament. People are not just pulling this out of thin air. Deuteronomy 18:15, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me. The word raise up, maybe they'd come to think that word raise up literally means raise from the dead. God's going to raise up a prophet. That's why they're thinking maybe this is one of the prophets of old, come back from the dead. It is to him you shall listen. Malachi 4, verse 5, Malachi promises, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. Okay, so, well, maybe God will raise up a prophet of old, but of course Malachi did say he would send Elijah, so maybe this is it. Maybe this is Elijah, and he will turn the hearts of the children. He will turn the hearts of fathers to their children, and the hearts of children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the land with a decree of utter destruction. It is, of course, a question, who is Jesus, of no less import today. It is the central question of the gospel message, which is why all of the gospel writers record some version of this. Who do you say that I am? Who am I in your eyes? The many, many stories of miraculous power and healing and casting out demons, it's power over the supernatural world, or the natural world rather, in calming the storms and creating food out of nothing. That, of course, reinforces the answer that Luke has already given by this point in the narrative. And so at this point, Luke inserts one of the most famous stories of Jesus that really emphasizes this point. Who is Jesus? Is he Elijah? Is he one of the prophets? Is he like Moses? And of course, we come to the Transfiguration, a real answer at this point in the narrative to settle once and for all. No, he's not Elijah. No, he's not a prophet of old. There's something else going on here. We just said all that stuff. I got to keep up with my PowerPoint. Luke 9:28, the story of the Transfiguration. About 8 days after these sayings, he took up with him Peter and John and James up to the mountain to pray. As he was praying, the appearance of his face was altered, and his clothing became dazzling white. This is the transfiguration. He is transfigured. That word has to do with change or morphing from one thing to another. He's being transformed into this supernatural appearance. And behold, 2 men were talking with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Is he Moses? Is he Elijah? No, here's Moses and here's Elijah. They're right there by Jesus. He's not them. He's somebody else. Now, at this point, Jesus had begun to teach very plainly to the disciples that his death was looming, coming up pretty soon. And of course, Moses and Elijah, they appear and they speak of his departure. That is, they are speaking to him about the very thing that he's about to do, the death, burial, and resurrection, which, again, I appreciated Steve's point. This is the essence of the gospel. The very core of it is he died, he was buried, and he was raised. And Moses and Elijah appear to talk to him about such things. I'd really like to know what they said. I'm really interested to know what kind of conversation they had about this event that was upcoming. But Jesus, of course, has already told his disciples at least twice in this chapter, perhaps more outside of what's recorded for us. He had told them what was going to happen, Luke 9:21. He strictly charged and commanded them to tell to no one, saying, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed and on the 3rd day be raised. He's told them, hey, I've got to go die, but I will be raised again. Luke 9:43, while they were marveling at everything he was doing, Jesus said to his disciples, let these words sink into your ears. Get it through your heads. The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men. But they did not understand this saying. And Luke even goes on to say it was hidden from them. It was not the time for them to understand that yet. Jesus was not the earthly conqueror they were expecting. He was the sacrificial lamb being led to the slaughter. In Isaiah 53, as a lamb led to slaughter. This is leading in Luke's gospel especially. Luke has framed his narrative in such a way that everything is leading to Jerusalem. He begins his ministry up north. He moves to Samaria. And as the narrative continues, he ends up in Elijah. They appear on the mountain with him. And they talk to him about his departure, the thing that is about to be accomplished. Verse 32, back in the transfiguration. Now, Peter and those who were with him were heavy with sleep. And then they're like, whoa, what's going on here? They become fully awake and they see his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. And as the men were parting from him. So Moses and Elijah, they appear and they have this conversation with Jesus that I'd really like to know what they said. Ultimately, we don't know. And then they're getting ready to leave. And the rest of them wake up. Whoa, what's happening? Master, it's good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you and one for Moses and one for Elijah. Not knowing what he said, that little detail in the story, that Peter did not know what was said. It would have explained why what he's about to do is really inappropriate. They came to talk to Jesus about his departure, maybe encourage him. I suspect that's what they were doing, is encouraging him, giving him some of the strength that he would need to go through with this thing that he's got to do. Peter wakes up and thinks, oh yeah, this is great. Well, they're about to leave. They've done what they came to do, to whatever it is that they were doing with Jesus. He didn't hear that. Peter and the others, they were asleep while all that was happening. They didn't really understand what they had come to do. And so, okay, let's set up a tent. This is great. Moses and Elijah are here. As he was saying these things, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were afraid as they entered the cloud. The idea of entering the cloud, this cloud has really descended upon them, and it's filling the whole space around them, and they're like, oh, what's going on? And a voice came out of the cloud saying, this is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him. And in the context of the story, again, rumors are swirling around. Who is Jesus? Is he Elijah? Is he one of the prophets come back from the dead? Is he Moses? No. He's my son. Not only is he my son, my chosen one, listen to him as instead of Elijah and Moses. Not that Elijah and Moses were bad. They did what they needed to do. But now the time is here to listen to Jesus. He's not Elijah. He's not Moses. He's not another prophet. He is the Son of God. the chosen one, and the chosen one who does not need Moses and Elijah anymore. Their task, whatever they had done here, they're about to depart. And Jesus is about to go and do the thing that he needs to do. When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone. You don't need Moses and Elijah anymore. You need Jesus, and you need to listen to him. Because ultimately, they weren't the chosen one. They weren't going to come back from the dead. Their work was done. Now Jesus had come to accomplish his work. So he's not Moses or Elijah. He's something greater. And why is he the chosen one? Because he alone could make the required sacrifice. Moses and Elijah were not able to do it. They weren't equipped for it. They weren't the right kind of sacrifice that we needed, this lamb that was led to slaughter. Moses and Elijah were insufficient for that job. Only the Son of God could do what was necessary. And so who is Jesus? We see throughout the rest of chapter 9, as we'll read some of the verses in Luke 9, some of the answers to this, and again, a new way of thinking about what this means for Peter and the other apostles. He is the Messiah, the anointed one, but not to establish an earthly physical kingdom. Luke 9:51. When the day drew near for him to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. And again, you see this all throughout Luke, that Jesus is getting ready to go to Jerusalem to have this ultimate sacrifice. He sent messengers ahead who went into a village of the Samaritans to make preparations for him. But the people did not receive him because his face was set toward Jerusalem. When his disciples James and John saw it, they said, "Lord, do you want us to tell fire to come down from heaven and consume them?" They didn't listen to you, Jesus. And to be fair, James and John, they just heard the thing that God had said, "This is my beloved," or "This is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him." And then they're like, "Well, they're not listening to you, so we should consume them, right? We should smite them." This is really smiting is what they want to do. But what does Jesus do? He turned and rebuked them. No, don't do that. That's dumb. I don't know how Jesus rebuked them, however he would have done that. But obviously what they were thinking was inappropriate, was wrong. That's not the right way of thinking about this. Yeah, they're not listening to me. That doesn't mean you're going to consume them with fire. That's not how you're supposed to do this. They're still thinking physically. But Jesus' kingdom, as we've been discussing on Sunday nights, and I'll remind you, we're going to resume that series tonight on how the church should be interacting with the world around us. Jesus' kingdom is something transcendent, something beyond the mere physical. Jesus is the chosen one, but not to elevate himself. He expects his followers to take this path of self-sacrifice. As Jesus is reminding them over and over, the Son of Man is going to die. I have come to sacrifice myself. Luke 9:46, an argument arose among them as to which was the greatest. But Jesus, knowing the reasoning in their hearts, took a child and put him by his side and said to them, "Whoever receives this child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me. For he who is least among you all is the one who is great." Stop thinking about things in a worldly, earthly way. Yeah, I'm the chosen one, and I'm here to tell you, if you want to be great, you need to humble yourself. You need to lower yourself. Whoever is least among you. I didn't come to be the chosen one to exalt myself and create this system where everybody's trying to be the best. We're supposed to be serving and humble. Luke 9:23, he said to all, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it." Ironically, Jesus about to do a thing where he could save his life, but he's going to choose instead to give it up. Whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. As Jesus losing his life for our sake is the thing that creates salvation, he expects us to follow in that mode of self-sacrifice and self-denial. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself? You're so concerned about being great. That is the wrong way to think about this. I'm the chosen one, and I'm setting the example of self-sacrifice, self-denial, of putting others first. He is someone worth following no matter the cost. And the cost might be great. The cost might be your very life. And even if it's not your earthly physical life, the cost will be your life regardless. Your will for yourself, your view of yourself as the most important thing, your desire for self above all else, you will have to deny yourself at some point. Luke 9:57. As they were going along the road, someone said to him, "I'll follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said, "Foxes have holes, the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. You want to follow me? That's fine, but you're not really going to have anywhere to stay." To another he said, "Follow me." And he said, "Lord, let me first go bury my father." And Jesus said, "Leave the dead to bury their own dead. As for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God." And yet another said, "I will follow you, Lord, but first let me say farewell to those at home." And Jesus said to him, "No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God." As Jesus does in many of his teachings, there's some hyperbole in some of this teaching, but everyone has their reasons why they refuse to follow Jesus, despite all the evidence that God has given for his identity and authority. And as Jesus has been going through, again, mostly in Galilee and Samaria at this point, doing miracles and teaching and healing and casting out demons, there's still some hesitation in people's lives to follow. Should I follow this guy? Yes, you should follow him, but be aware that it might be difficult, that you will have to take the path that Jesus did of self-denial and self-sacrifice. Why would someone ever turn their back on the Messiah? This is a question that I think about a lot as I read through the Gospels, and Jesus has done all these awesome things. Why would someone turn away from someone who promises so much? And it ultimately comes down to because it isn't what you expected or wanted. That is, you were thinking about Jesus in a certain way, and he confounds those expectations. He's not the thing that you were expecting, and so, well, he must not be the guy, because he isn't doing things the way that I thought he should. He isn't doing things the way that I think need to be done. But I would note, as we conclude, the version of Jesus shown to us in the Gospels is not who Jesus always was or will be. The suffering servant of Isaiah 53, the lamb led to slaughter, is who Jesus was in his earthly ministry to accomplish the specific goal of salvation for man. But that's not who he always was. Joshua 5:13, Joshua went to him and said, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" And he said, "No, I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I have come to drive away your enemies and to give you victory." And Joshua fell on his face and worshiped because he recognized the presence of deity. Revelation 19, at the very end, I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and the one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. The suffering servant was what Jesus needed to be to accomplish our salvation. But as Jesus says in Luke 9, that is not how he will always be. "For whoever is ashamed of me and my words, of him will the Son of Man be ashamed when he comes in his glory, in the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. He will return to judge and make war, to conquer all evil for all time, to defeat every enemy arrayed against God and his faithful. But in the meantime, he has given us the example of self-denial and self-sacrifice. He is the anointed chosen of God to show us the path to the Father, the chosen one to whom we must listen. And so we end with the question, who do you say that Jesus is? And what is that confession worth to you? Jesus turns it on to the disciples. Who do you say that I am? The Holy One of God, some gospel writers record. The Son of God, the Christ, other gospel writers record. And Jesus probably asked this question on numerous occasions. Who do you say that Jesus is? Is he the Son of God? Is he the suffering servant of Isaiah 53? Is he the chosen one? Is he the one who will judge and make war? And if the answer is yes, what are you doing about it? What's changing in your life because of the identity of Jesus? Are you living any differently than you did before? Are you making any progress toward being like him? Are you denying yourself day after day, taking up your cross and following him? What is it worth it? Is it worth it to forsake everything for the sake of that confession? Him who is ashamed of me and my words, that's what Jesus says. Does your life demonstrate that you are ashamed of who you think Jesus is? And when he comes in the glory of his angels and the glory of his Father, will he feel the need to be ashamed of you? We offer the invitation every week, and it is the same every week because the core of the gospel is the same always. That he came, he died, he was buried, and he rose. He gave us victory over death. And we can share in that victory over death. We talked about some of it in class this morning. We confess and acknowledge him before men. We repent and turn from our old way of being. That's denying self. That's the self-sacrifice, right? That I'm putting away the old me, and I am buried with him in the waters of baptism to be raised to walk in newness of life. If you're ready to join him, to be on the winning side, come while we stand and sing.